See what happens. We are live. Hey, welcome. Sorry, we had some technical difficulties, and so we're running a little bit behind schedule here today, but we made it. We figured the Zoom stuff out, and we're here to talk about all kinds of different environments, spaces, places, and how we steward the places and spaces and environments that we get to work and play in every day. So ACTS is a global network of action sports ministries, and our mission is to connect leaders who are making disciples of Jesus in every action sport in every nation around the world. And so we have a goal with these shred talks, basically to create discussion around a topic so that we can share resources and learn together from each other. To help facilitate that, we've gathered a couple here to be representative leaders panel to discuss. But if you're watching live on Facebook right now, I want to encourage you to comment in, say hi, comment in some, questions, comments, that kind of stuff. I'll try to pull some of that into our live discussion here. But yeah, we're gonna get started. We're talking about spaces and the environment that we work in. So facilities, public trails, how do we steward those things well? Before we jump into that, I want to have each of our panel members introduce themselves with your name, where you're from, and a little bit about what you do. Caleb, do you want to start out and go first for us?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's me. I'm Caleb, hailing from the north, home of the Winnipeg Jets. If you don't know where that is in Canada, or it's just above North Dakota if you're an American. It's the center of North America. So yeah, I run an indoor skate park here. It's 1,300 square feet. Here it hails behind me. So yeah, it's got if I can go this way, you can see it's got a bowl over there. So yeah, we're fortunate. We got this pretty large space in a relatively small city, but we're essentially the only indoor park in the city. So we serve skateboarders very well, the best we can. Try to be open as much as possible. So that's what's going on here in Winnipeg.
Very nice. Very nice, Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Phil, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I'm Phil, Wales originally, so fairly nomadic existence from adult life, but finally ended up in Italy. Been here the past 12 years. I used to run a skate park or action sports center. We took over a skate park and diversified. We had indoor snowboarding, breakdance, parkour, and stuff like that. Various action sports under one roof. For 5 years back in Switzerland, a number of years ago. Also involved in construction of parkour parks in more recent days. But a passion for the environment, studied architecture at university, so passion for spaces in general, and excited to be here with you guys today.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, Phil. I want to give a shout out to Taylor Brandt joining us, Darren, bunch of different people are watching live, just saying hi to all of you. Kevin, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Kevin up in Seattle, Washington area, the Pacific Northwest. Done a bunch of different stuff over the years in lots of the sports represented, but currently mountain biking. Yeah, I've done a lot of different things with spaces and environment with that.
Awesome. Mark?
Yeah, I'm Mark Hager. I'm down here in Dallas, Texas. I run Wakewell. It's a wakeboard ministry where we have chapters all over the country sharing the gospel with wakeboarders at cable parks and lakes and rivers. So we have ministries at public places like public lakes, but then also at facilities like privately owned cable parks. So cool stuff. And I don't know. I think it's cool stuff. Maybe you don't, but
It's cool.
I think it's cool. It's pretty cool.
Thanks. Hey, thanks, guys.
Just pretty cool though,
No,
back.
Not overly cool.
Just not overly cool.
Just pretty cool.
Stay humble.
Yeah. Mitch, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us where you're from, what you do.
Great. Yeah. Hi, my name is Mitch Anderson. I've been working with a Youth with a Mission. My wife and I have been in YWAM for 38 years. And I was born and raised a swimmer, and I've been surfing since 1967. And so when I first got pushed in on a wave some 54 years ago, so I've always had a passion for surfing. And then many years I was into the big wave, doing some of the competitions. And about 10 years ago, I got sucked over on a big one, broke my neck. And that slowed me down a little bit. And getting a hold down with a broken neck is not fun. I wouldn't recommend it for anybody. But yeah, broken about 16 bones and 600 stitches later. Not the sharpest pencil in the box, but we've been, Lord led us down in Chile. We're living in Chile for 34 years. We got 5 kids. Our oldest daughter, was the top women's professional surfer in Chile for more than a decade. Our other daughter, professional surfer, also big wave riders, both of them. My son, he was a junior pro for years and got into the big wave riding scene as well. So I'm really the only one that had some major injuries, but and then we've opened in Chile. If you look it up, it's called Pura Vida, Puravida, Pura Vida, and it's in Pichilemu. We're on the coast there. Chile's got some of the most amazing mountains, the Andes Mountains, for trekking, for rock climbing, for mountain climbing, for skiing, snowboarding. There's just a whole myriad of things. And then we got obviously the coast and the rapids, and it's a wonderful land for so many extreme sports. And I built a fitness community center right near the beach. And so we got 2 3/4-mile left point breaks in our community. Can surf all the time. It's really amazing. And it's cold water, but wetsuits and whatnot, and a few white sharks on occasion too. They come up to say hi on occasion. And then I built a fitness community center. We have a pool. It's a roof swimming pool with some solar technologies and stuff for heating and all that. Weight room, dance and aerobics, martial arts studio, basketball court, soccer, volleyball, as well as obviously surfing and skateboarding. We got all the equipment for a skate park with ramps, above ground ramps and stuff, and jumps, and our concrete finally just got rocked out, so I have to redo to reinstall it. But that was going really great for a number of years. So really stoked.
That's awesome. A lot of people commenting in here and saying I want to come and visit, and I would say yes, I want to come visit as well. So
come on down.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, I want to say thank you to each of you for joining us on our Shred Talk today. We've got people watching live, and so I'm going to try to bring those comments in if you guys are commenting in some of the questions and things like that as we go through and talk about all these different spaces, environments, facilities, and how we steward those things. ACTS has 72 partner organizations and teams that are working in 32 nations around the world. And so everything from like skateboard parks to bike trails, the mountains, the oceans, we're all working and playing in different spaces in this environment. And in the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 26, it says, "Then God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, to rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air, over the livestock, and over all the earth itself, and every creature that crawls upon it." So our stewardship of space and the environment is really important. But how do we best do that, especially in the world of action sports? So I want to start out with that question of, how do we steward the spaces and environments that we live, play, and work in? I know it's kind of a big, broad question, but I wanted to throw that out and see how you guys handle it. Anybody can just feel free to jump in. How do you steward the space and environment that you live, play, and work in?
Not everybody all at once.
Yeah, I'll go. So for for Wakewell specifically, you know, like I said, we have chapters at public lakes and rivers where anyone and everyone can go. And when we're there, we're using boats predominantly, people who volunteer to bring their boats out. And wakeboard boats are not necessarily the greatest thing for the environment. It's probably not the worst thing for the environment, but you know, there's plenty of ways to kill the earth quicker, I'm sure. But at cable parks, you know, when I'm there, and you know, one thing that we try and really encourage our leaders to do that have chapters at cable parks is to treat the park like your own. And you know, you see trash, pick up trash. You see, you know, anything out of place, clean it up. Try and make this place look great. And we try and do that with our boat chapters as well. You know, when you go to the boat ramp, let's make that place an inviting environment. Let's you know, you don't, it's hard to bask in the glory of God and, you know, really see his beauty of creation when you're, you know, looking at a bunch of crushed beer cans and, you know, just trash everywhere. And so there is an element of, man, you want to set up the scene that you're going to share the gospel in. Like, you know, you don't want distractions. You don't want people to be put off by, you know, the trash or the smell or the, you know, just have any reason to not pay attention to the words that we're trying to say, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. I like how that setting the scene for the ministry that you're doing is, yeah, super important. That's a cool way to think about it. What else? How do you guys steward the spaces and environments that you live, play, and work in?
I mean, I resonate with that, Mark. Like for me, that's pretty significant for running this park. Like, you know, having the skate park in Winnipeg is such a privilege, and like taking care of it does feel like a being like the requirement is to steward it well. Like we have been given a pretty amazing gift, and like there's like lots of donations and grants, and like so much time and money has been gone into like creating the skate park, and like and so for us to serve the community. And so yeah, like it you know, we're kind of like smack dab in the middle of the city, like, and we're like in like the crutch of a whole bunch of neighborhoods, and people end up like just hanging out on our steps kind of like all the time when we're not open. And so even just like cleaning up outside and like making sure the place looks like that we care about the neighborhood, and that we like make sure our garbage cans aren't overflowing, even though they're not like our responsibility but the city's. It's just like, no, let's just take care of this place, and let's be like a good part of the city that just like that goes above and beyond you know, what we're expected to do. So I feel like that is something, a way we're good stewards. And yeah, that's one way we think about it, at least, as our community.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah, for sure. You know, it like the way I think about it is like my wife and I, we've led Bible studies at our house for years, and every week before people come over, we clean up the house, you know. And we're not like trying to like be deceptive and like trick people into thinking that, you know, we're cleaner than we are. But it's like, no, like we want, when people enter our house, we want them to, you know, not have anything distract them from spending time with the Lord. Like if they're coming to experience the Lord and you know, have a Bible study and do worship and do all the stuff, it's like we don't want them to be distracted by smells, by trash, by whatever. And so we clean up our house. And in the same way, like, man, we should be doing that with the places that we are doing outside ministry or inside ministry too. Like we're not gonna expect people to come to our gatherings and be put off by being there. You know, we have enough offensive things to say to people without them being offended by the trash and the environment and everything around us, you know.
Yeah.
One thing I've been encouraged in my life. Like I said before, I've loved surfing and loved the ocean my whole life, and went through university years and years ago, environmental studies. I got my degree as an ecologist, and I was a tree hugging hippie living in my truck. But took oceanography and all that because I was fascinated with the ocean, and I would encourage all of us to inform ourselves in the area where we have a passion for, in the sense of be well educated, be well prepared. Like we have conversation, discussion. I mean, mostly when it comes to surfing, it really is about protecting not just the beach and keeping it clean. It's super important, but also the whole marine environment, every aspect of what the coast looks like. And sometimes that could actually enter into the conversations about coastal conservation and coastal protection, where like instead of putting in those, you guys on the East Coast have those big groins, those big, blocks of concrete out into the water and stuff. What would it look like to have some submerged reefs where you're interacting with nature, you're actually creating a whole nother scenario, but you're doing it in a way that the sands won't be torn away. It gives place for some fish and marine life to live. So there's ways to study to show ourselves approved, in the sense of coming to grips with what could work, what wouldn't work, and how that can be woven in, and then be the people who bring honesty and integrity to the table, to where there's movements, there's environmental movements, there's that are going on that I have come to realize in many cases, they don't have the protection of the environment as their highest agenda. They've got other things. They got political things. They've got, ideological things. They've got other things going on. And I'm not talking about calling people out and getting all confrontational, but what I am saying, we can as a body serve the surrounding community and serve in a lot of ways that really people could see it and they could feel it, and they know that you're a benefit, you're a blessing, you're one who is making the whole scenario of your area of focus better, and you're doing a better job than everybody else. And so that's really been on our hearts. Like the center that I built, if you guys look at it, the Puerto Vida Center, I got a 10,000 square foot steel frame structure over a black pool. The pool is black because it's absorbing the sun's rays. That was my solar technology background. I'm going back next week. I'm in LA right now, heading back, another week to go install a whole set of photovoltaics, solar systems, and be the first fitness community center in the whole country that is solar effective. So I got a 10,000 square foot steel frame structure. We built it with eucalyptus tree trunks, dragged this 28 tons of steel into the air by hand, welded it. OSHA would have just shot me if they'd have watched what we were doing. But I told everybody every morning, you got your running shoes on? Because if that big old tree trunk goes over, just run. And but then we put plexiglass over the top of the whole thing. So it's this huge, massive 10,000 square foot building that's like the inside of a hot car on a warm summer day, because our climate is rather cool. We're like Northern California. We're not hot weather. And so it's worked to be a very, very effective. The pool keeps itself warm right now, and the sun does all the work for us. And so people walk through the door and they look around, they go, wow, this is amazing. This is really innovative. This is something. And so we as Christians, we can say, yeah, we don't just talk about being concerned about the environment. We actually are doing things, and we're doing things that changes people's way of thinking as we work to innovate new ways to make a difference. So
Yeah, that's good. It's like it bolsters your effectiveness to communicate the gospel, because they look and they say, wow, you actually care and you're actually doing stuff, and it makes a difference. And then it gives you an opportunity to share the gospel and share with them why you do what you do and why you care. So yeah, that's awesome. Kevin, maybe you, I was trying to think up how to put this exactly, because it's going off script a little with this question, but in my yard, if I just leave it be, we have this stuff called buckthorn, and it will overtake the entire yard. and just everything else dies because it will thrive and it's invasive. And so I don't, in maybe some of your trail building and experience out there in the mountains and the woods and stuff, if left unattended, does nature just kind of take over and do its thing? And how much is intervention important in keeping like a healthy, thriving environment? Or if anyone else wants to jump in, I don't want to put Kevin on the spot, but
No, I'll go for it. Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question in some ways, because you're like, to build a mountain bike trail, you're changing the natural environment, right? And so, and to keep it open, like we can close a trail down and it takes less than a year to close it down. You can't even hardly see that it was there, at least in the wet, Pacific Northwest area. Some areas like where it's really dry, like it'll be a scar forever. So the interesting thing with mountain biking is that once you change the landscape, the biggest like erosion factor or negative factor is water, and how the water runs down the hill and across the trail. So from a stewardship standpoint, like first up, you kind of need to understand the techniques of building and maintaining so that you're not actually, one, having to do more maintenance to keep it riding well, but two, like causing a scar. And something like, even like you get into watershed and like runoff into like the marine environment, on a coast or into lakes and all that. So you really can have a negative impact. So to have the education and know like, well, how do we do this well is part of it. But to your question of like, how much work do you have to do like to keep it open? Like the mountain bike community is really good about, like, they call it stewardship, but it's really like keeping what we want the way we want it. And that's not really the same thing. And so like, and I've run into like, the more I've gotten involved in like the advocacy and working with public lands and different user groups, the more I realize that most people involved, I have an idea of what I want my experience in the world to be like, and I'm going to fight so I can get my experience. And as a Christian, to read through scripture and go, wait, like Jesus gave up his rights to serve others, right? Like, Philippians 2, like I was looking at that and like, wow, to apply that to how do I go into a meeting with other user groups and we all have to say like, what works for this land? Cutting everything back over and over so that it's the way I want it may not be the best thing. So I think what I've found is the first step is like creating a culture with my own riding. Like when I ride dirt, like my tires, if I do the same thing over and over on the same spot, like it will change the trail. And then that changes how the water runs down. And so just being aware that like I impact the trail and the environment by the choices I make on my bike, and then what I teach other people about how to ride and how they interact with the trail and other users. And just like, it just comes back to that. Are you going to be someone who not only cares about the space that you're riding and the trail you're riding, but also how that impacts other people and then, the environment long term?
Yeah, that's good. I like the idea of working with nature. Kind of to Mitch's point of putting in, a black pool. It's using the sun to heat the building and heat and that has benefits for his organization, but it also has benefits for nature and the local community because they're not using so much electricity to heat the pool and do all that other stuff. And so working with nature in certain ways. How do you, to that point, how do you determine what is the top goal with stewarding the environment that you're in when not everyone has the same goals, or they want a different experience. So you got one guy who wants a nice little trail through the woods for mountain biking. You got another guy who wants it, blown wide open for, a ski hill or something. I don't know. How do you, where does God want it, and how do you steward towards that? Anybody jump in on that?
I'm jumping. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to say, but I was prompted by your last comment. Blow this open for ski thing. So in Tyrol, where we'll have the season opener for Snowboards for Christ and the Team Unbound German Sports Ministry open gathering next month, in Tyrol, there's been a proposal to remove a section of mountain. There's a small ski area that's not attracting too many tourists. And there's a law now in the Alps where you can't build new ski areas because of the environment, but you're allowed to expand existing ones. And there's this one village that's hoping to join with another ski area. It will become the world's largest ski area if they do it. But in order to do it, they essentially have to blow apart a mountain and shave off some glacier. I mean, it's a ridiculous project, yeah? Thankfully, there's a grassroots environmental movement against it, and also amongst the locals, and they've got 180,000 petitions, and everything's on hold for the moment. But I think those questions constantly about, how much of the earth is our playground, therefore we can do what we want because it's our playground, and how much is it actually we respect it, not just so that we don't look after the playground so it serves us a playground, but we look after it because it in itself has an innate value, and we should take care of the environment because it's worth taking care of as itself. So I'm just throwing that out there as a general background thing because you mentioned blowing up mountains. So the Austrians are considering it. Some wealthy investors are considering it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, Johnny, you're like, the question you asked is a great one of, what do you do to, or what do you, how do you approach, what do you say to people that have the different agenda, or like don't see the same like view as you do of wanting to steward the environment and everything? And I think so much of that is like, you have to teach people to appreciate the stuff around them sometimes. Like, like Kevin was saying, if you're just there to ride the trail and, do your thing, like, yeah, you probably will, like, ruin parts of the trail and, not worry about ruining the jumps. And so I like being able to step out and say, hey, like, look at how beautiful, these jumps are. And in the area that we're in, surfers do a great job of appreciating the environment they're in. They have a healthy respect for the ocean, the sharks, the dolphins, the fish that are all like there with them. For me at lakes and wake parks, like we deal with snakes, we deal with alligators, and when people see a snake, it's like, hey, I want to kill that. And so I love snakes. I think they're incredible. And so part of what I do is, like, if I see a snake, I know what snakes are there. Like, I have familiarized myself with the species that I'm going to come in contact with, not just because I want to have an appreciation for them, but I want to teach others that appreciation as well. And so, we've had tons of times at the wake park where there's a snake in the water, I'll catch the snake, and then like people's fear turns to fascination so quickly because they realize, oh my gosh, this is a cool thing. And, I'm sure it's the same thing with sharks, where it's like, dude, if you don't have the fascination of sharks, then you're always going to fear them and, be terrified and want to kill them and want to, the second anything happens, get out of the water, when, the reality is that the likelihood of being attacked by a shark is astronomically low. And so, I think some of it is our responsibility as believers to familiarize ourselves with the nature, the animals, the plants, the weather patterns, like all the stuff around us, so that we can help people see God's glory, right? Like God's glory is in the creation. One of the first jobs he gave us was to steward and like care for and name the plants and animals. Like, dude, that's a joy that we get to have, and we get to see the craftsmanship of our creator in all of nature. And so I do think there's a responsibility for us to familiarize ourselves with the nature in our environment.
Yeah, it's really true. I spent 25 years as a state lifeguard in California, coming up every summer, and mostly up Santa Cruz area. We ran junior guard programs. We had about 4,000 kids on the beach, and we had a blast just teaching the kids about taking care of the environment and whatnot. But then education, you're right, education. I mean, I've seen a bunch of white sharks. I've seen bull sharks. I've seen, hammerheads, white tip, black tips, sand sharks, and come across all those kind of animals. And hey, I still got all my fingers and toes, and be able to educate people and letting them know that 99.9999% of the times, there's nothing going to come of it except you get a smile and a big black eye looking at you, coming up to say hi. And yeah, it's kind of an adrenaline rush. You get one of those big 3,000-pound animals come up underneath you. You definitely remember it.
Well, let's shift a little bit here. We've been talking a little bit about nature and how we can interact and work with nature, but there are other aspects of environment that are a little bit more outside of nature, like skateboarding, maybe a little bit of parkour, indoor climbing, things like that, where we're not engaging so much with nature, but we're working in an environment that was created. With so many spaces that are available in today's world too, why would we aim or endeavor as ministry people to create a new space? So as an example, here in my city, there's 2 other indoor skate parks. There's 40 outdoor skate parks. Why on earth would we want to go and create another indoor skate park? Or like with surfing, with so many awesome waves around the world, why would we want to build, a surf pool? Or like with, you get what I'm saying? Like why create environments? And how does that impact the way that we steward God's glory in creation, nature, all those things?
Johnny, I'll kind of tie that to your last question a little bit of, with the natural environment where it's shared use, I think understanding intent for the land is really important. So like, is this public land? Is this a private property? Is it a ministry owned property? Is it a government owned, or a recreation business park? And knowing what the intent of that land is helps you know how to interact with it, how to steward it well. Well, so the same thing is true if you have a need or a program that doesn't fit the intent, well, then you need to look at creating it. You could look at creating it somewhere else. So, it might be different. It might not be the same kind of space, but like an indoor climbing gym is a great example. It's not a cliff face, but there's a need in a city that doesn't have outdoor climbing or year round or whatever. And then that space, I think, hopefully the goal is community and relationship and interaction, through that.
When should you not create a space? Maybe let's go at it in that way. Like when should you not build a new parkour park, or when should you not build a new skate park? When is it not the right time to invest into creating an environment or a space? And how would you, understand that, know that?
Sure. Can I just back up a little bit? First on getting out of nature, I'd I'd encourage everybody to encourage people to get out in nature. You know, there's lots of proof that being in nature is great for our physical, mental, you know, emotional well-being. And so get people out surfing or snowboarding on the mountains or mountain biking is a great thing in itself. So, you know, and one of the best ways to create an attitude that will lead for people to make good choices, sustainable choices, environmentally friendly choices, is for them to connect with nature, and therefore they will learn to love nature, and therefore they want to protect nature. You know, if Mitch spends, you know, hours and hours in the ocean, he's going to fall in love with the ocean, and therefore he's going to want to surf. And you say surfers, a couple of you mentioned surfers are great at this. I just saw a statistic that Surfers Against Sewage have like now engaged 130,000 volunteers. It's just incredible the work they're doing on beach cleaning things around the UK and beyond. So unbelievable. I think, and then just thinking about our playgrounds, I think there's three categories. We've got just pure nature. You know, a surfer does nothing often. They just get in whatever's provided pretty much. I know there's a few little alterations of reefs and stuff, but pretty much you just get in the ocean that's been there for millions of years potentially. Then you've got the tweaking of nature. When a guy builds a snow park or a trail, a mountain bike trail, well, actually, mostly it's nature. You know, the gravity's still there, the mountain's still there, but there's a bit of tweaking. You know, you might build a little bit of a trail and dig it. And then we've got some of these, you know, probably the skate park you're looking at in Winnipeg, not working so much in nature. You know, it's like flat ground, and we're bringing in the excavators and the concrete trucks and building. So I think, yeah, there's different areas, and I think the one thing looking at that for me would be that wherever we can tweak as opposed to build from scratch, then we're going to be using less resources, we're going to be environmentally more friendly. Yeah.
Oh, dude, Caleb's about to take us to the skate park. He's about to show us something.
Show and tell. You're on mute.
Yeah, like we don't really work with much environment, like I mean outdoor environment. So like, I know that concrete is actually really, really terrible for the environment, and so I do take to the point that like when to collaborate is a great question, because Winnipeg doesn't need two of these, and so like even now, like Winnipeg has a really large Indigenous community, First Nations communities. And so we have a whole bunch of communities asking us, like, how can we get in there? What can we do? And we always, like, from being at the position of having a space like this, like, there's one way to do it. Like often in ministry, we're often trying to like, how do we get out to like, you know, what can we use? How can we connect with youth, or how can we connect with that community? But very much, we're kind of in a different spot having a space like this. It's like, hey, how can we serve other communities so they don't have to build another skate park? So they don't have to like reinvent the wheel. Like, I mean, these things, like even like the lights are on right now and no one's skateboarding because the people that just left didn't turn it off. It's like, we don't need lights on in a whole bunch of skate parks in the city, but I'm not going to go down and turn them off because you'll lose me. I'll do it when I leave. But
That's all good.
Yeah, sorry, environment. But yeah, like I think collaborating is huge, and I think every time you can collaborate, it's important, and it's not always going to look so grand as that big skate park. I did skate ministry in Toronto as well, and we just had a gym. It was small, it's a box and a rail connected with skateboarders. The ministry was just as significant. It's about relationships, and sometimes it's you got a great skate park. Sometimes there's a great wave, and sometimes there's not. If you're doing ministry, it's about that quality time. So.
It's true. You know, part of it too, you got to take into consideration the issue and the idea, the concept of yoking, who we are yoking ourselves with. Like I come here to North America and I just, gee whiz, there's an open park, a green area, open spaces, all these things that these municipalities put in, and they leave them out there for people to use, you know. Whereas I go back home to South America and you don't have that, you know, or if you do, it's the people that control a number of these areas that it makes it really hard to try to work alongside and try to walk with them, because in many cases you find yourself unequally yoked. You got people with a whole nother agenda that are kind of keeping their fingers and claws into what's going on. And so there's a case like we have I have all the equipment for a skate park, and we did our skate park, and it all the concrete and everything wasn't done well, all by hand and whatnot, and it finally disintegrated. And I really need to redo it. But there's a skate park in town, and it's not a very good one. It's a small one down near the beach, and I've gone back and forth, wanting to get down there and get more back involved in what's going on there. But there's people that are overseeing that are not like-minded at all, that don't have the same agenda and don't want to see what we're doing and make headway. And so you find yourself kind of beating your head against a brick wall. And so I'm kind of moving back into a direction of, well, let's keep some fingers in that pie down there, but let's get back and get our skate park up and running, because that's our territory. That's our place. That's our home base. That's where we could openly preach the gospel. That's where we could, reach into and touch people's lives. And so it is something that you need to understand. Who are you aligning yourself with in the process? I've seen ministries invest in things and pour their heart and soul into something for somebody to come down the line and just yank it out right out from underneath them, because they never had any ownership. They never had any, and I've had bits and pieces of that happen in my life too. So we just need to be wise as serpents and innocent as doves in the way that we utilize what we have already, but also what we're able to use. So my encouragement is always to look at what you got around you, come to understand the setting that those open spaces and places are the way, who's covering them, what's covering them, what is it, what entity is that, and then engage with that entity and see how you could serve in practical ways, and then move in a way that doesn't end up biting yourself in the butt, a few years later after you've poured your heart and soul into something, and they walk away and say, thank you very much, now get out of here, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I want to talk about some creative ways. I know, Mark, you talked about picking up trash. We were just actually the other day talking about going out to our local skate parks and taking some guys out there to pick up trash. And then we realized that, the city hires like 5-6 guys that do that on a regular basis, that go out there and pick up the trash. So there's no trash really to pick up. And so we were trying to think of, well, what are some creative ways that we can actually serve our skate community here outside of our own facility, that are ways that we can invest into, taking care of the environment, taking care of the earth. So I want to throw that question to you guys. In your respective sports that you are engaged in, what are some creative ideas that your ministry has taken care of the earth or taken care of the environment? And if you're watching online, please comment some ideas into. We'd love to get those.
There's an organization, not Wakewell, but an organization called Wake the World. And one of the things that they do is they do an annual Love Your Lake week. And they like encourage people to, to sign up and post pictures and do the stuff of like, hey, get your crew together and go love your lake. And they do it by picking up trash, by, scrubbing like algae off boat ramps, do like whatever's needed. They do it, and they've kind of made it like their own holiday, where they put it on the calendar. It's the same time every year. Hey, this is Love Your Lake week. And it's been super effective for them. And it's also like a rallying point for a lot of their members, and they've involved Wakewell and some other lake-based organizations to do that as well. And so that's been a really cool thing to be able to pass on to some of our leaders in our chapters, to say, hey, FYI, it's Love Your Lake week. Go and do that.
Yeah, let me know what day or what week that is so I can love my lake.
Next summer.
Okay, sweet. Ours are about to be froze over, so no love. What else? What are some other creative ideas that you guys have done to help take care of the environment, take care of the earth that you work in?
this is probably mostly a recap, but I mean, I think in mountain biking, like it's pretty obvious trail maintenance, you know, clean up the trail area, trailhead, all that stuff that we've kind of been talking about. But it just keeps coming back to me that like long term, it's education and culture, like the culture we create for the people we're around and the people we interact with. Um, you know, that it's not just about what I want, but how do we care for this well? And how do our actions impact that? And just the education, like, well, do we really need that kind of playground here? Like, is it worth tweaking it that much? Like, you know, Phil said, like cutting the mountain off, maybe not, like, but just asking those questions that may not be popular. Like, and I love to ride hard, like, don't take me wrong, but I just think it's that teaching people to ask those questions of, do we really need to do this here? And is this really helping, or is it just purely self-centered and consuming? That seems
How do
like a
you
big one.
how do you educate? I mean, do you have like a class, or is it just kind of like, you know, when you're out there talking to people, that kind of thing? Or
I mean, I think it's a number of fronts. Like one, we've ended up in like city council or like the political environments of governing those areas, and like it's education of, well, this is the real impact and this is what people want, and like maybe, you know, and then asking those questions and working with, you know, the land management of, well, this is what people are looking for, how do we do that well, and how do we do that lower impact, you know. And then in other times it's like, as I've done a lot of coaching, you know, people, it's educating in that, like, not only how do you ride, but why do we ride this way here and not somewhere else? Like, again, back to intent, like a trail built specifically for mountain biking with berms and jumps and all that, it really comes down to respecting the people that built it and then maintain it. Like, if you're tearing it apart, like it's gonna get fixed at some point. It's not really an environmental issue, it's more of a respect issue. But if it's a multi-use trail and there's nobody tasked with maintaining that ongoing, and you just come through, shred it to pieces and move on, that's like, that's pretty different in my mind. So it's educating your riders to be aware of what kind of trail they're on, and like, and just to think about their impact. Like, how is this going to be for the next person, or in 10 years if we keep doing this way?
yeah,
I think the last line you said, you know, just getting people to think about what their impact will be. Because as we all know, the environment, it's such a complex issue. So I can think of little examples where, like, you know, we build a parkour park on the beach, for example. One great thing about building a parkour park on the beach is we don't have to get sort of 20 tons of flooring, because there's certain standards if you're going to build, you know, in Europe, in the EU, a parkour park, you have to have soft landings, blah, blah, blah. But sand, soft beach counts as that. So all this rubber and plastic, we don't need to do because we have the land. And we built it originally with old telegraph poles, and now I'm kind of more research, I realized that these telegraph poles, once you look like, hey, we're recycling telegraph poles, they were probably treated with some horrible stuff to fight, you know, whatever. There's now maybe go on the beach, like, no. So we've removed all those and we put in the galvanized steel, etc. But it's a constant question, and what can we do better? Going to the, I'm going to travel from the UK to Austria for this European thing, and I spend the afternoon looking at ways I could get there by bus, so I don't fly, you know, because I'm just asking the question, how can I reduce my impact? And, you know, I don't have all your answers. I saw now they're making surfboards out of mushrooms, which is awesome. Yeah, apparently growing surfboards with this mushroom thing, and then I don't know how it works, but in the future there'll be less chemical, horrible foam boards, and there'll be mushroom made boards. And
I like
it's
it.
just part of that education. I'm finding my little, yeah, check it out. It's pretty amazing. Surfboards made of mushrooms. But I'm making the little changes that I can, the more I'm educated. But I go back to the thing I said earlier, you know, by connecting people with nature, you know, many people. I studied in New York. I met a girl who'd never seen a cow. She lived her whole life in the middle of New York City. She'd never seen a cow. As a guy coming from Wales, UK, that was inconceivable, yeah? So for her to think about the planet, maybe she's only ever seen concrete, you know, she's never, or maybe, you know, Central Park, this tiny little kind of, you know, fairly natural area. But by taking people out to nature, I think, you know, connecting with nature, they're going to get a passion for it. But then every individual needs to ask themselves, you know, how can I reduce my impact? You know, I'm looking at your skate park of concrete, and concrete is pretty horrific for the environment. But the good side it's got is once you made it, it should stay around a while. So, you know, you won't have to make 20 of them, you know, so hopefully that'll last you for the next 50 years. And so there's good aspects, but keep getting educated yourself and keep always asking the question, how can I reduce my impact and care myself, and then encourage others to do the same.
Eli commented in, he works with Climbers for Christ, so they like climb rocks and stuff. He said they are working on a reduction, eradication of single-use items at events, both their own and then co-sponsored events. So they're having people bring reusable cups and plates, and they're also involved in 20+ Craig stewardship efforts around the country, both as a partnership and service opportunity with Creation Care. So I think that's cool. Like with the events that we do, instead of rolling out all the plastic cups, you know, encouraging people to bring cups and plates or whatever. What else? Any other ideas?
I think it goes a little bit with what I said earlier. I was hearing, I don't remember who it was, talked about working with the local authorities, and all the people are already out there picking up trash or what have you. When you're dealing with municipalities and all that, it's great to have, like we have a reputation in our town of folks that are just looking for ways to serve. And so going to the local authorities and saying, hey, is there anything we can do for you guys? And it's crazy. I mean, when you're living in Latin America, I mean, literally we tried to paint the hospital. And when you're dealing with a corrupt society, they didn't want us to paint the hospital. And I find out later on, well, they're stealing money for the grants that are meant to paint the hospital. If the hospital ever actually gets painted, they won't be able to get the grant the next year. So you got to keep the paint peeling and falling off the walls. And they graciously kind of said, no, we don't need it right now. We're fine. No, you're not fine. The hospital's falling apart. And so who you're dealing with, again, it gets back to that yoking. But it's really, really cool to have the attitude that goes in and looks for ways. You know, I'm always convicted. The surfers, like New Agers or folks that are just not Christian at all, when they go to our surf spot or the surf spots we have in the area, and they put signs up to inform people about different things. And I'm thinking, man, we should have done that. That's what we as the body of Christ, we should be doing that. We should be the ones on the forefront there. Whether it's a trail or whether it's what have you, or something to bring that level of consciousness up in people's minds and hearts, and how to take care of things, how to make things right, how to keep things in the right setting. And when people see that and they realize that it goes back to you and your ministry, that's a plus, because that gives us authority to then speak into the culture's life around us. And so it's really, really important. And I've been toying with ways. I've been collecting broken and used surfboards, my buddies down there, because I have a dream to rip off all the fiberglass and re-laminate them with a very thin plywood, and then trim them out along the edge. I'm a carpenter, and so trim around along the edge with wood, and then work on some kind of laminate to go over the top of them. And so you got a board that's all brown and old looking and just tattered, and all of a sudden, instead of becoming landfill, it turns around and turns this beautiful. It's not easy to do. They're not easy to make, but coming up with an idea like that and starting to make it marketable and stuff, I think is really going to be a great way of people looking at us and saying, wow, these guys have some answers to the issues that we have as surfers. We throw away a lot of surfboards. I got about 25 boards in my backyard, and I'm thinking I got to revamp some of these because some of them aren't in too good shape. So
yeah, Caleb, you were going to say something?
Yeah, it actually transitions pretty well. Like just some small things we do at the park is like, well, we just don't throw away skateboards. We like keep them around for art projects. There's always the new, like we got a few connections of people who like either make rings from old boards, or they make there's a few people that make just jewelry from them, or they make benches, or just high school kids want to like do a few art projects at school, and like, or often teachers will show up and they'll be like, we'll take as much as you can. And a couple times a year, we got someone to come and fill their van up with our old boards, just so they don't end up in the, I mean, they might end up in the landfill, but at some point, but you're still reusing them a couple of times. So it's not just, I mean, skateboards are single-use products. It's kind of a shame, but often there's someone out there who's creative enough. And so we've done our own projects too. Like we've taken a whole bunch of boards and made a couple of fish out of them, like massive, like 14 foot long pieces of art, and displayed those. And we've just tried to do I don't think we throw it, for the most part, we don't throw them away. And it takes a bit of work, right? You got to like pull the grip tape off and use a heat gun. And that's a bit of work, but it's the same kind of heart behind like, just, well, maybe we can get some more time out of these boards or get a new activity or something. And we also just do kind of the small things, like try not to use plastic water bottles, although COVID's been a trick for that, stuff like that. But yeah, but bring in a big jug and reusable cups. And it's like, yeah, we're gonna have to wash the cups. Someone's gonna have to wash the cups. It's okay. It's gonna be a bit more work, but we're not gonna, bring a whole bunch of bottles of water. And sometimes you have to, but you should try not to.
Well, and some of that extra work that gets created creates opportunities for people to serve. I feel like a lot of here in North America, we eliminate opportunities for people to serve because we're just so self-sufficient. So I can't even go to the skate park and clean it up because somebody, they hired somebody to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, we do. Yeah, and caring for environment, I was thinking about that too. Like we just we just go around and also just care about other skate parks that we don't go to. We just do that in the summertime. Like we get a couple volunteers, like, well, let's go to this park we haven't been to for a while and make sure it's in good shape.
Yeah, well, that's good. Well, I know we're over time. I want to be respectful of your guys' time, but I want to ask just really quickly if you guys have any resources, books, classes, podcasts, YouTube content, anything that has helped you expand your learning in this area that you could recommend for everybody watching.
Yeah, check out the Surfers Against Sewage website. I mean, quite an inspiring group that started small and now it's huge, and doing the list of the projects and things they're involved in, and now they're creating plastic-free communities, actual whole villages that are going plastic-free, but it came from these few guys that are like, hey, we got to clean our beach up, our local surf spot, and they're tackling the whole coastline of the UK, etc. So a website for inspiration, what one person can do, they started something small and now it's having a massive effect. So I was inspired myself, so check that out. Surfers Against Sewage. They're against a lot more now.
Awesome. Yeah, any others, books or resources that have helped you developing your mindset around stewarding the space and environment that you're in?
In mountain biking, it may be somewhat controversial at this point, but the International Mountain Bike Association has a book on like best practices for trail building, and the criticism is it doesn't necessarily, like, some of their rules don't need to apply in all areas and soil types. So people end up thinking that they have like really like mellow, dumbed down, like tube built trails. But the practices on how to do it well and care for the environment are really good in that book. So Trail Solutions by IMBA is a good place to start. Their website also has a lot of stuff.
Sweet. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say every David Attenborough nature documentary that's ever been made is awesome. So, hail to the king, David Attenborough.
Right on.
Also, Lake Love. You can go to Lake Love. I think it's lakelove.net is a website where you can get involved, help clean up your local lakes and everything.
And another book that just came to mind is called Rework, and it's a business book, but it really challenges you to think about, well, do we really need that? Like, can we do this with less, like lower mass, less stuff? Do I need to start it? And that was a big one for me.
Yeah, that's good.
I was going to, once again, kind of like a broken record, actually send people to nature as the resource to educate them, you know. But let's hearing Mark mention David Attenborough. What's kind of tragic when I hear him talk is, even though he has this incredible passion, he seems not to believe in any way. He seems, and I often see opportunity, particularly in action sports in nature, whether it's snowboarding a mountain or surfing in the oceans, you see this spiritual awareness and some sort of spiritual connection. However, often the worship is directed directly to creation itself. And, you know, just that line so often, you know, that's why I've had the joy to say to people, like, you know, it's great that you love the mountain, you know, but you should really get to know the guy that made the mountain or the guy that created the waves and stuff. And there's just that little line in there. But I still feel like, you know, getting guys in nature and is very important. Actually, I want to say how jealous I was when you mentioned, how many skate parks did you say was in your city, John? Yanni? You say 40 outdoor skate parks in your city? 45, that's ridiculous, yeah? I have to drive 2 hours here in central Italy to get to a bowl, yeah? We have one dinky little skate park in our town. So sometimes you have to build skate parks. I know you're kind of an advocate of not building them because sometimes you have too many. A place in the world where there's not many skate parks. So if there's not one in your neighborhood, go out and build one because it's good for kids to skate. Just think about it in an environmentally conscious way.
Yeah. Hey, I will say, I just remembered there is a Christian nature documentary that you guys got on. It's a whole series and it's called Riot and the Dance. Riot and the Dance. Someone told me about it and I was like, oh dude, like Christian nature stuff, this is going to be the worst. This is going to be so cheesy and it's awesome. Riot and the Dance. I can't sell it enough. It's phenomenal. Check it out.
Somebody better write these down in the Facebook chat because I can't remember them all. But
Riot and the Dance. It's A+.
That's awesome. Well, hey, I want to be respectful of your guys' time and everybody watching as well. If you have more resources, please comment and throw them into the chat so we can go click and learn and all of that stuff. And read the Bible too. Get into the book of Psalms and look at the way that David just describes nature and his love for nature and his love for God vis-a-vis, you know, experiencing and exploring nature. It's pretty cool. Yeah, that's all the time we got for today's Shred Talk. Thank you to each of you for participating.
Throw one more thing in there, John.
Oh, okay, Phil, go.
Thank you. Today I'm like the only non-North American here, looking at you like 5 North Americans, even though Mitch is down in South America. You guys are very blessed with having lots of spaces to do this extreme sports. And did a little mention of some guy down in Eswatini, ex-Swaziland, to hopefully build the first skate park in Eswatini. Let's not forget a whole chunk of the world. You know, you look at a map and click on skate park Google Map in North America and hundreds of little flags will pop up. You do the same in China and there'll just be, you know, a dozen. So let's not forget the rest of the world that aren't have the opportunities that us white boys are getting.
Yeah. Amen. Throw that in. No, I totally agree. I've been working on trying to get to Japan to build a skate park, but the borders have been kind of closed. But that's another way, you know, do a missions trip somewhere and help serve the local environment wherever you go. But anyways, yeah, that's all our time that we have for today. Thank you all for participating, everybody watching online. We're going to have another Shred Talk next month, and I'll post in the group about that as that comes up. But just want to say thanks to everybody. I want to challenge you to go out today, literally today, and do something to take care of your local space, your local environment. Is picking up some trash, you know, going down to the beach, picking up some trash, whatever you're doing, scrubbing algae off the boat ramp. Do something to take care of your environment today, and encourage others to go out and spend some time in nature. Thanks so much, guys. We'll talk to you later.